All right. Contessa, you on?
Yeah, I'm on.
All right. Take it away.
Okay. So thank you all for being here. What a great turnout. It's nice to see all of your names. I can't see your faces, but I know you're here and I remember what you look like. So that's a good thing. We sent some of you, not everybody, but here are some reading resources that we're hoping you could engage in with or without these protocols. So the first passage we gave you is SDI and vocabulary instruction. Our intention of providing additional resources for you or so that you could build knowledge, understanding, context, because there is a spectrum of folks on the call, and we want to make sure that everyone has a shared understanding. And then the second pieces that are below there are advanced literacies. And this is also just to keep in the forefront that our Chancellor's priorities, our instructional leadership framework centered around those premises of advanced literacies are continuing despite COVID. So we want to make sure that, for example, we are engaging in discussion protocols, we are giving texts to kids throughout our lessons, throughout our daily interactions with kids, because we want to continue to accelerate their reading abilities. And we need to do that through the use of text, hopefully differentiated. Go ahead. Did you move to the next slide? I can't see.
Sorry.
Oh.
I was on the title slide, but I was going to the icebreaker.
Cool. I'm still on reading resources, right?
Oh,
That's what
okay.
I see.
Yeah, so we're on the picture word association slide.
Are you?
So if everybody
okay, good. Okay.
can see that.
So we're going to ask everybody just as a way of engaging together. If you could enter into the chat box, do quick word association when you see what you see on the screen. So this first meme, if you will, is me after I eat all of my quarantine snacks in one night. I know, what a cute little baby, right?
Accomplished, disappointed.
Accomplished.
Rolls.
I love
squeeze,
your perspective.
Cute, chubby, chunky, cute, chubby. Not summer ready. Full.
Awesome. Not summer ready.
Maybe not full enough, Jackie. I don't know.
You're also funny.
Stuff said that.
Guilty.
All cute. All cute would probably be 2 words, but we'll take it. It's okay.
Thank you.
All
Go
right.
ahead, Pete. Go to the next one.
Let's go to the next one. Ready? And go.
All right. So if you're fans of this show, so all of a sudden everybody has become Sheldon. Quick word association there.
Germs.
Stay away, Corona, LOL, me. Yuck, germs. Germs. Real life, one word. I like that, Jackie. Germs, germophobic. Germs. Reality, C19. A lot of me.
I know, we're all becoming Sheldon. Go ahead. Go to the next one.
And the last one.
All right. So last but not least, you get homeschool. You get homeschool. Everybody gets homeschool. How does that make you feel?
Germs. Except for that one.
So we have sad, upset.
I don't know if that's changed. Look how many of you are saying sad and upset. I don't know if that's changed from the beginning or if it's, has that been consistent for everyone? The sadness and frustration.
Christina used an emoji instead of a word. All right.
I think people are hitting their tolerance level now.
Yeah. Just in time for summer,
maybe? The first week, yes. Sad, sad, isolated. It is sad. It's not. It's just not. It's not natural, right? I think that's my word.
But what if you say it in a tone of you get a car, you get a car? What if you try saying it like that? Not so much. No shift.
Oh.
Fake it until you make it, Contessa.
When we do this again, let's do the slides in reverse order. So we start out sad and we end with the fat baby.
I know. That cute little. Imagine trying to give that kid a bath
Yeah.
underneath all those rolls.
Bet you didn't think you were getting this for this professional learning, huh? You didn't really know how to throw a wrench in there.
I know.
Right.
That wasn't how we made that association. But
The point of that was to, to bring some light to things, obviously, and to check on everybody's kind of social emotional well-being. Just make everybody laugh a little bit, hopefully. But I think we got the point across, hopefully.
So really the intention of the construct and design for that for everybody here was to talk about for a minute that we have to have Maslow before we bloom, meaning that we need to think about and plan and address kids' sense of esteem, their belonging, security, what's going on physiologically, all of those things that we used to tend to live, that we need to figure out what's going on now without actually that touch point of seeing kids and talking with kids and watching them walk into a school building. Now there's so much going on behind the scenes that we don't get to see and hear and know about, but we can't think about talking about learning about Pythagorean theorem, industrialization, world wars, really dense topics in any way. We can't expect that kids will engage with us when all of those pieces of esteem and belonging and security and all of that we know are happening. Even for all of you, we can't think about it accelerating kids to analyze or apply or comprehend and engage in complex tasks when they have so much else that we need to consider. So we're trying to make a discrete connection between what are the ways that we could ensure that we are thinking about planning for also maintaining that sense of belonging, for instance, and security. So what have we moved over from live instruction and what do we continue to think about and plan for during this time? So if you look to the right of the screen, you see SGI phonemic skills and fluency, strategies for inferring, guided practice, daily planner, sentence starters, explicit instruction, time management, daily check-ins. And those things are lifted out from, for example, management needs. And so the session today is designed to ensure that we're thinking about and making connections between the IEPs that we've designed and how those management needs and things that we talked about and included in our IEPs that we developed for kids as school teams, considering folding in all stakeholders like sentence starters, how that looks and how we continue to accommodate and provide management needs during instructional planning as we live it right now. So we're hoping that this frames your thinking for the session today. So we want you to capture an IEP and think specifically about individual kids and how we, pre-COVID, thought about plan for those management needs, and then how we are translating that and maintaining that and implementing the IEP during these times. For me?
Well,
Okay.
that doesn't matter. So these next two slides are really review. If you were part of our first SDI session, or you've been a part of any of our ICT sessions in the past, quality IEP, we always kind of start out with the definition of STI. Some of you are new to this, or we have a lot of paraprofessionals here who really have become, more of a teaching assistant, more in that academic role than they were pre-COVID, right? And so for those of you that are new to it, this is the official definition, federal definition of specially designed instruction, and it's when we're really adapting, meeting the needs of individual students in one or more of either content, the what we're learning, right? The methodology, right? So the approach, and the delivery of instruction. And these specially designed instruction areas, these 3 areas, are always linked to how the child's disability manifests itself, which is why it's so individualized, because it looks different in every student. So the other part on the right side of the screen, we talk about the high leverage practices, which have been out for a handful of years now, I would say, or maybe 4 years or so. There are 22 of them in the areas of assessment, collaboration, social, emotional, and instruction. It was created by CEC in collaboration with many different, organizations, and it pinpoints basically all of the high leverage practices, which are things that we need to be focusing on and things that work, right? And those 4 categories are really encompass all of that. And so that's really what this session is driven by. The other piece of this, and we introduced this slide in our first SDI session, so if you saw this already, I apologize, but these elements of explicit instruction are really the driving force behind SDI. So you really can't have specially designed instruction without incorporating one or more of these elements of explicit instruction. And so what we did was we took the 16 elements and we broke them into the 4 domains of content, design, delivery, and practice, right? And so it's really important that when you're designing instruction for kids, no matter what your role is, teacher, paraprofessional, that you're really thinking about these elements and thinking about how you're incorporating. It does not mean that all 16 elements have to be included to make it specially designed instruction, but it's just thinking about kind of using this as a reflection tool. If you're delivering instruction, am I requiring frequent responses from my student? Am I providing feedback that's immediate, affirmative, and informative, right? Am I helping students to organize their knowledge, right? So these are just kind of some self-assessments for you as educators when delivering instruction to students with disabilities. So what we wanted to do with you now is quickly just go over what educational benefit, first the definition really of educational benefit. So for some of you, this is not new, but you can see the visual in this slide, the triangle. When we have present levels of performance in an IEP that has SMART goals that are aligned to those needs and strengths of the student, and then we have recommended programs and services that are also in alignment, that then we can say that we're providing educational benefit for a child. Oftentimes when we review IEPs, because that's a big part of our role, we notice that IEPs are not in alignment, right? So we'll see things in the present levels of performance, we'll see various needs listed there, and then we won't see goals that are aligned to those needs. So what's the point of us talking in an IEP about the strengths and the deficits of the child that we're servicing if we're not providing some goals and management needs and supports to address those deficits, right? And then the other area that we sometimes don't see is that we have children who are maybe just slightly below grade level, but when you get to the recommended programs and services section, we see that they're in self-contained for their entire day with 20 periods of related services tacked on, and sets and this and that. So when we talk about alignment, we talk about educational benefit, we want to make sure that what we're writing and saying in that plot at present levels is then reflected again in goals, and then reflected again in recommended programs and services. So what we prepared here is a little annotation strategy that I know Elizabeth's online. When she was in her previous role, she was coaching teachers in IEP writing. I know this is something that she did with them, and so she'll maybe dig deep into it a little bit with you. But I just wanted to introduce the colors. We basically assigned a color to assessment, SDI statements, and management needs, strengths, and needs, a different color. And so what we did was we took a sample student and we started to color code so that we can easily see where these statements lie within the present levels of performance.
Do you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, I'm there. I don't think.
Oh, sorry, my fault.
It's just lag. Yeah.
I have my camera off. My internet
okay.
doesn't behave in the afternoon. So here we see a piece lifted out of the plot, and the present levels of performance and the management piece. So what we used to do as a team in my old school was go through the IEP and color code everything so it looked like a beautiful mess. But then we were able to lift, everything that's pink you should see in the goals. Or maybe not everything, but everything that's in the goals should certainly be in pink in the plot. Everything that's in testing accommodations, you should go back and you should see in blue. Within the plop, you highlight all the management needs, and then that should all be repeated again in that separate section for management needs. So it started out as a quality IEP exercise, but of course it also lends itself to be quality specially designed instruction exercise, right? Because our instructions for our students with IEPs comes from their goals, which comes from the plop, which is a detailed explanation based off our assessment. So it shows the progression of why we give assessments and what it leads us to and where our instruction comes from. So the opposite of SDI would be to have the train of thought, well, this student is behind, so he'll benefit from anything. So I could give him anything and, I don't really have to plan because I know he'll benefit. That's not intentional. It's not specially designed based on a disability, right? So when you take an IEP and you start looking for this alignment through maybe keep the quality of the IEP robust, which of course then lends to the instruction. So if you look at this, you see the white parts are just kind of the student profile pieces. The yellow, I'm having trouble seeing the colors. The yellow is the assessment piece.
Yes.
So anything that's based in data, you would highlight in yellow. So number one, that makes sure that you have data there. And number two, it's going to lead you to make sure that data is meaningful. That's my dog, Tiki. He says hi. The next part is highlighting strengths. So again, that enforces that we have strengths in the IEP. So the IEP doesn't always come from a place of deficit, but we want to make sure we speak to the student's strengths and what does work for that student also. So by being forced to highlight that, forces us to keep it in there. And then that'll also incorporate into the strategies and methodologies that we use. The next component is the student needs. So this is where you would base these statements off of the assessments that you've given, and that will translate into goals that will later progress monitor. Again, we have some more benefits. What does work for the student? What are some strengths? What skills do they have? What does the student respond to? And then again, some needs. And then you can see in the next section, it's all SDI management statements. So this was pulled from that last section of the plop, which makes sense that that's why it's highlighted this color. But you might see a repeat from the top of the plop too. But this is where your instruction is really going to be specially catered for the student, right? So I don't want to read everything to you, but you'll see praise, positive reinforcement, small groups, visuals, repetition, hands-on. This is unique to this student and to this disability. This is not going to be cookie cutter for every IEP, right? None of it is, but especially this part, because this is really what tells us what should be specialized, right? We keep saying specialized, intentional, and that's what it's all about, planning intentionally, and that your instruction is intentional for these students. So this color coding strategy worked very well for us as a school. The quality of our IEPs tremendously improved, and that eventually leads to improving instruction and student achievement.
Yeah, so I just want to think to add on, this is not a quality IEP writing PLO, but without a quality IEP, it's very hard to provide specially designed instruction, right? You need to know all of these things, in order to be able to then plan your instruction. So that's why we do spend a lot of time on this. And when we run our workshops that in our, at the treaties and sometimes in your buildings, we focus a lot on the quality of the IEP because it's so important for you to be able to provide SDI. So if you remember that back in that first slide, Contessa started us off with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then we went into some management needs statements that you might find on an IEP, which you could see on the left of your screen. Now that we're in remote learning, we have to start thinking about what apps and resources and programs do we have available to us that make sense, for these, right? And so, we tried to just think of an example. There's many ways there's many different types of technology out there that will do this, but we just tried to think of one example based on maybe some of the tools you're already using. So, if you're thinking about doing small group instruction, of course, you would want to use a live, video platform, right? For that, right? If we're thinking about providing strategies for inferring, we might want to use Google Form to ask some scaffolded questions to the student in order to get them to the inference, right? I'm not going to read them all to you. If we're thinking about time management, we might want to go to something like Jamboard or Google Keep, where it helps teachers can kind of, help children create a checklist of what they need to complete. And it's kind of interactive between the teacher and the student, or the parent and the student. So that's really where we want to start thinking, and that's what takes us to our tech expert, who is on with us, Jackie Patanio, and she's gonna walk you through a process of using Google Forms and kind of bringing a few of these resources together.
It's funny. You give me a different nickname every single time.
I didn't want to say Tech Jesus, but you are Tech Jesus. But we have it's a religion thing, so it's like you're all of the above, Jackie. So
I've been given many names, but I'll take them. I'll take them.
Yeah. I'm going to relinquish control to you here.
Okay. Right. So I'm actually just going to start talking a little bit about our thought process, because I was on with the special ed team yesterday, and we were kind of thinking through progress monitoring and the tools and, the purpose. And we kind of were iterating different versions of what we're going to look at today. So I'm going to bring you over to my form. So just really quick, in the chat, how many of you use Google Forms? Just say yes, say I've never heard of it, or heard of it but never used it.
A lot of yeses.
A lot of yeses. Okay,
Yep.
Good. All right. Just really quick, put in the chat, what are some of the things you use it for presently? Could be personal, it could be professional. Just share really quick. And Brandon, if you just want to shout some of them out to me.
Sure. Quiz, read aloud response, check-ins, exit slips, student responses, answering questions about a story or reading response, data collection, let's see, attendance, quizzes, exams, post-video assessments, daily assessments, parent surveys, field trip reflection. I like that. Use it to answer questions from admin, but never created one. Reading response, parent teacher, heard about it, never used it. Yep. So.
Okay. So you'll notice that like a lot of them are similar. Some of them are a lot different than maybe you would have thought. So it really is a good idea to sort of crowdsource and see what it is that others are using it for. Usually I default to, when I do trainings and I talk about forms, that's a really good way to gather information from families and students before they come to you, right? So getting to know them, sending out, what's your student's favorite book? What is it that they're interested in? Sharing out if they have allergies, sharing contact information. Again, like we used to do it pen and paper, but now it's kind of really quick. You send out a form to families and they're able to do that as part of the entry into the classroom. Also, another thing is book responses, right? You could put something like this up in your classroom, in your Google Classroom, and it could be something that students just go to and start, do responses to books. There's a multitude of things. And the reason why we picked this today was because we are all on our own Google Apps domain. And it's something that either, like most of you have said, either you've done it for your principals, your administration, you've created it yourself, you've used somebody else's. This is one of the native apps that you can get the most bang for your buck. And that's what we're trying to do. Find things that are high leverage items that we can use throughout content, throughout different purposes, different areas, and that could meet the needs of different, grade levels and people. So this is free, obviously. And again, that's one of the other reasons that we kind of focus on some of these things that are free and things that are integrated into Google. So Brandon, Contessa, and Liz and team sent you out this survey, which was to ask you, what tools have you been using progress monitoring for? And what we did was we sort of looked at the data and we thought, okay, we talked about Google Meet, and then we were thinking about, again, what can we use to support this? So we came up with forms. So the form that we did was called a progress monitoring form. We created this one, so I'm going to show you what it looks like fully flushed out. And then we're going to look at the back end and how it is that we can create one ourselves. So this is the back end of a form. And when you're creating these forms, as most of you know, it's pretty simple. You're just kind of tapping into the various areas in order to manipulate the questions that you have. So this particular form is meant to gather information on a student. So what we did was we have the email address in here to be able to know who it was that sent it in, the student name. So again, it's going to depend on the grade level who is filling this out. They'll be typing in their name. We have demonstrating fluency. So let me show you actually, I realize we'll go on to this. So this is the people facing view. I call it people facing view. This is what like somebody who's receiving the form would see, right? So they come in here, they put in their email address. So I'll pretend to be Brandon right now. beshul@schools.nyc.gov, right? Because he's filling it out. And he's going to put in the student's name. Maybe he's doing this with his child. So Brandon, can I put in Michael?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so he's doing this with his son, right? And let's see, what goal are we demonstrating? So this is a drop-down question. We're going to either pick oral fluency, writing, or math. I'll put writing for now. And then again, you'll see in this particular form, we have different types of questions because we wanted to demonstrate the ways that you can kind of represent for different.
All grade bands,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So right here, we have the drop down, the goal that we're demonstrating. And then we also have the goal demonstrating over here, where you're able to put pictures of what it is for a more, visual appeal for what you're trying to get the student to notice. So again, this is the writing, and this has a more detailed approach to what they're demonstrating. So if we're doing writing, when given a topic prompt, Roberta, now this is pulled right from, Liz, what is the name? That was pulled right from the IEP? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
so-
sorry, I had to come
Okay, sorry.
off mute.
So
Sorry,
that's-
yes, that was pulled from the same IEP that we read the plot.
So again, thinking about like pulling out right from there and putting it directly into a form for the students to be able to identify this is something that I'm working on as one of my goals. So as I scroll down, are you meeting the goals? So they put in junior high and high school version. This, you might not have your cutesy pictures and you might say yes, no, I could use some support, or no, I don't know how I'm going to get there. I'll click no. And then this is more for your students who are younger, or feel free to use this with your older students. It really doesn't matter. It's just about what they respond to and what will help them. Right, Bran?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So as I move down, talk to you a little bit about this. This right here is a screenshot that I took. So what I did was I had worked inside of a Google Doc, and I'll open that up for you. And I put set of directions on how to upload a video to this form, because the idea is that we were talking about students can respond to questions on here, whether it's multiple choice, whether it's drop down, paragraph, but they can also add in a video or a recording of themselves, which is really important because sometimes students can't express themselves in writing, can't express themselves multiple choice wise. The idea is that here down at the bottom, it says upload yourself reading and reflecting. The student has the ability to be able to upload a file of themselves, whether it's, let's say, reading. I'll use fluency for right now, reading a book and demonstrating what the goal was up top that they were trying to measure, or maybe it's something else, and maybe it's not reading, it's they're demonstrating a task. So I'm showing you that I can measure with a measuring cup. I know what one half is when I use a measuring cup. But the idea is that you now have the ability to take video and upload it into this one form. So you're keeping everything in a nice kind of neat fashion that will live on your drive. And again, we'll get to that point. I'll show you where it is. So, but this right here, these were directions that I created on Docs in a table, and I just took a snapshot of it and put it into my form. So again, that's something else that maybe we could talk about another time, but I just wanted to draw your attention to it. So when I come on over here, and again, we're at the people-facing view, I want to upload the actual video. So I click Add File. You'll notice that I could pull in right from my computer. So if I'm accustomed to recording on my computer and it's already on here, I can just click Select from my device, and anything that I've recorded will pop up and I can just pull it in from over here. Otherwise, what I can do is if I have recordings on my drive, I click on my drive, and I know I have a recording in here from yesterday. So let's see, what was it called? Okay, I'll add in a Nearpod video. Okay, it's too big. All right, it was not from yesterday. So I could add in, as long as it's, because I have it set, and again, I'll bring you to the back end. I have it set to 1 gigabyte, so it can't be a giant video. It would have to be something that's rather short, which is what you would probably want them to do. You don't want it to be this long, long video. But
Hold on, Jack.
It's okay. Hello. Oh. Hello. Okay, now I can hear.
That's better.
Okay, that's better. So I'm going to grab this recording because I remembered that there was a WAV file. I click Select, and it attaches right to here. So again, this is me submitting it on behalf of my child, Michael. So now, me on the teacher end, all right, I come back over here. I was talking to you about this being the editing part. As my students are, or parents are responding, and it is popping up over here on my back end. So again, for most of you who do know this, you know that this is the summary sheet, tells you who's responded, their name, and then this is where you're gathering sort of that overall data on what your students are working on. So we scroll down and we'll see that there's different pie charts, but you now have your recordings that live over here at the bottom, all right? So it's kind of, you know, it's just a different approach to how you can now use your forms. Instead of for just basic pulling in of text and pulling in a multiple choice, you can pull in that level of using actual video and voice for students. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring you over to the sheet. So I want to show you what it looks like in the Sheets view. So up here I have my Google Sheets, and remember, your forms and your sheets are married together unless you unlink them. So anything you put, anything anyone puts on the form will speak to this sheet directly and put whatever is inputted in there onto this. So here we go. We have our timestamps. This is the one that I just put in on behalf of Brandon. I have the student's name. I have the goal he's demonstrating. Again, depending on the grade level, are you meeting your goal? There's the upload, and are you meeting your goal? It's out of order because we put this in later on. So this is the part that I was talking about. Like, you're able to house all of your recordings in one space. Instead of having to either look for them in different areas, you can just have students be able to upload it right there, and then this is where it lives. All right. Also, I want to bring your attention down to the bottom. This particular sheet, this particular one that we were working on, progress monitoring for September, is down here. Every time you create one of these, you create a form, you could have the form feed into the same sheet. So see here, I have another one called Progress Monitoring December. I have another form out there that's floating around that is connected to this right down here. So I just want to show you how easy it is to do something like that. So I'm back in my Progress Monitoring for September. What I like to do in order to keep the integrity of what I'm working on so that it stays the same from form to form, especially if I need it to be similar, I go over here and I click make a copy. And again, progress, it's going to say copy of Progress Monitoring September. I have September, I have December. I'm going to make this one March. Okay, and it's in my special ed folder. Do I want to share it with the same people? I do. And I click OK. So I now have a copy of that form, but it is now called the Progress Monitoring March. All right. It's the exact same one. It does not have the responses. This is just my updated form that I can now use for March. So I'm going to bring you over to where we talked about creating the spreadsheet. So normally when you create a form, you might create spreadsheets and you might create a new one, which means it would just make another spreadsheet for you that's separate and apart, and it's only connected to this form. I want this form to be connected with the other ones that I created. So I'm going to click Select Existing Spreadsheet, click Select. Give it a moment. This is the form that we were on. I'm sorry, this is the sheet that we were on. Okay, this is the one that we were just looking at that had the responses on it. I click Select. And we're going to look at the bottom as soon as it opens. And here we go. So you notice down here, you could all see it, it's down. You have your Progress Monitoring September. So I'll just click over to these tabs. You have Progress Monitoring December. And now we have our newest one. It says Form Response 4. All you have to do here is click on this caret and click Rename. And then you could have it match the title of the form, Monitoring March. Okay. All right. So that's how, and again, that was a very quick how-to on how to get your forms connected. But it is very helpful to have everything in one place and be able to, you know, kind of look at things over time and how your students are progressing. So I'm going to head back over to my original form and close out some of these. All right. And I just want to show you that when I click on this down here, which is the upload yourself, I could make modifications to this question. So how we get to this is when you're adding a question in, you would do it the same way that you would add a regular question in. So I click add a question, right? And it automatically defaults to multiple choice. We come on over to multiple choice and we just come on over here to where it says file upload. All right. So we decide, are we going to let them upload their Drive files, and we click continue. And then again, we're going to ask them or tell them what it is that they're going to upload. Please upload a video of yourself. And then this is where you allow only specific file types. You could leave that turned off. You don't need to turn that on. That's up to you. You can maybe be more specific if you only want, you know, a video, or if you only want audio, but honestly, you just leave it on. It's easier that way. Maximum number of files. Do you want it to be more than one file at a time, depending on what you're asking? And then this is the maximum file size. So I believe that I have my other one set to 1 megabyte. You could leave it 10 megabytes, 1 gigabyte, whatever it is. But it tells you here this form can accept up to 1 gigabyte of files. So things that are small, no, like a couple minutes worth of recordings is usually good, right? And then that's it. So that's all for this, but you can always toggle back and forth and make it required or change anything that you need in here. So what's really easy, and I'm going to share the directions with you because I have the doc for it. It's actually right over here. I'll pull it up. Oops. Nope. I got ahead of myself. This right here, this talks about how students can upload files onto a form, just like we were looking at. So truth be told, the easiest way that they can do it is by recording themselves on an iPad or on an iPhone. Because what will happen is once they record themselves on their camera, the regular camera app on the phone, what they would do is they would just go to the form that you shared with them. They would open up the form and it would say select from your device. So they would click on that, and it's like anything else. Like anytime you've ever uploaded a photo or shared a photo with somebody, it says that this wants to access your photos or your videos. And they would click on this and it would go right into the form. So this truthfully is the easiest, and you'll never hear me say that iPads are the easiest for anything. But in this situation, it is definitely easy to upload. When you're using a laptop, you'd have to get a little bit more creative, and you would have to, either students maybe record themselves on the native app on their Macs, on their Chromebooks. They might have something they record on. Otherwise, we usually suggest Screencastify because that lives right here. And what you're able to do, and again, just bear with me because I'll kind of walk through the steps. Instead of clicking maybe browser tab or desktop, if you're just asking them to speak to you or demonstrate something that they need to see the child, you would click webcam only, make sure that the mic is on, make sure that the FaceTime camera is on, and click record. And what we'll see now is me in my kitchen, and I might be reading to you from my book, and it's going to capture everything that I am doing as the student. Then I'll click stop. All right. And again, I'll just walk you through the process of how this can be done with your kids. So there I go with my hands talking. Okay. Always with the hands.
True Staten Islander.
You could, like I said, it's actually very easy. They can just download it right from here. So it could be downloaded. It's also going right into the drive. So just remember, this is the most important thing that you're going to do after you create the video is come over here and make sure that it is named properly. So this might be JP, progress monitoring, goal, March. All right. But again, this is like me being overly dramatic. You could have like a code or a system of whatever it is that you would want for them to put up there. But I'm just going to put this up here for now. So two different things I could do. I could download the file, like I just said, and it'll pop up down here. And then what also is happening on the back end is that this is being saved into my Google Drive. So it's automatically being saved in my drive. So now me, as the person who is now going back to fill this out, I'm just going to go down to that section of the form. I click add this. And again, I could pull in from my computer by selecting from my drive. I would have to go locate it. God only knows where I have my thing set to. And then I have my drive. So the name of the video was JP Progress Monitoring. I'm just going to copy it. And I will search for it in my drive. There it is. And it's bigger than 10 megabytes. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go in and make modifications to the actual question. But that's how easy it is. Okay. Just make sure that you have this set to a larger file size. Let's see if this one. So that's pretty much it in terms of, making sure that things are set the way they need to be set. You definitely want to play with it, and you want to make sure that, again, like we were tinkering, this is my newer question, but we were trying to figure out like the best way to show this to you and kind of think about how you could best use it. You definitely want to see if it works, and you want to make sure that it makes sense to whatever it is that you're doing. Because one of the ideas that we had was also maybe not having separate forms, right? You might just have one form for the whole year, and this might just say progress monitoring, and then one of your questions might be, what month are you in? So you could just have that one form and then have students select, is it September, is it December, is it March, is it May? So there's many different ways that you could attack doing this. So that is it for me. I'm going to kind of stop for a minute and then ask Bran if there's any questions or anything.
So I don't see any questions. I'm looking on the chat on my phone. If anybody has any questions for Jackie, please post them in the chat now. While they do that, I just want to add that, we're always shown so many different apps, tools, resources, or at least all these companies online are like competing with each other right now, right? Because a lot of them do the same thing, but it's about knowing the capabilities of what we can do with what we have, right? It's not just about using it just for the sake of using it. So I really like Forms because Forms is very easy to create. It gets to the point very quick. And I like the fact that it really allows you to incorporate other apps in there. Like you can, Jackie, correct me if I'm wrong, but if, let's say, the teacher wanted to model something for a child when they were submitting this form, they can put a video themselves on the form for the child to watch, right? Where, yeah.
So so let's say we did, I'll pull up a Cami video, right? We wanted to put in Cami. We could throw in, this is something maybe that we created, we could throw this right in here. So we could ask them to watch the video, and then they could either respond to it or use it as, a guide.
Right. Yeah, like that could even be part of the directions, watch this video and then,
it could be the lesson. It could be the lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so flexible. That's why I like Forms. It's about integration of these different apps and resources. Let me just see if any questions came in.
I just want to add that typically at this point of the school year, we're starting to close things out for the current year of learning and thinking about transitioning kids into the next year of learning. And I kind of want to hold on to that as much as we can. And so that's why the progress monitoring conversation is so poignant right now. And that's, folks are talking about the summer slide, and there's a real thing, although very little research so far obviously has been shared, but about COVID slide. And so, we really want to monitor as closely as possible some of those learning points of where kids are right now so that we could inform, future teachers, or so that kids can become informed of where they are against the standards, against, where they were in their learning and where they are headed in their learning process at every stage of the game. So please keep that mindset in your instructional planning and design as we move forward, especially if largely right now it's been instruction heavy, and let's try and balance some assessments into what's happening.
Jackie, one question came from, I think her name is Shannon. Is there a way to join Jackie's classroom? And to my knowledge, I don't think you have your own kind of classroom, right? Do you?
I don't. I mean, no, I sort of do. So I float in and out of everybody else's lives in order like this. I do have the Empowered Educator group. So I can drop that in the link. So the Empowered Educator group is kind of where I put all PDs. And if anybody has any questions, I attend to them there. And also whatever PDs we sort of do together, I'll do follow-up PDs, or I'll do like little bite-sized PDs. And those are also posted in my team as well. So I'll share that with you, but I don't have anything formal. I like to work inside of other people's worlds because I feel like it lends itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a tremendous resource for us. You have been a tremendous resource for us. Maybe also dropping in the, I'm thinking the SIBO curated D31 website link in there, because that has a lot of like tutorials and trial, what apps are out there and what they're for, and so that might be helpful to people.
I'll add that in too.
Yeah, we actually finished on time. These are our resources, a couple of our resources that we spoke to today on my screen. So when you're back in the presentation, you could click on these to access them. Our one pager of offerings has, we'll have some updates if we'll be offering some other PDs before the end of the year. We're not sure yet, but that's in the works. And that is it, unless there are any last minute questions that I did not see. We good?
We're good.
All right. So make sure that you fill out that attendance form for today. Liz just dropped it in again. Thank you all for coming to our session today. The video will be the posting of the recording will be in the Teams section, and we post it to our classroom as well for you to share with anybody who may have missed it.
There was a question. IEPs are still IEP reviews, if they're still due. Yes, they are. June 4th is the day to get the last round done.
There you go. I didn't see
There's a
that
question in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, that went right by me. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you, everyone. And have a great rest of your week. And if we don't see you, have a great summer and be well. Stay well. We are here for you. We work during the summer, sadly. So shoot us an email. We like to talk. And that's it. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.